batches are for two types. One is insulin dependent and another one is what we call independent. That is NIDM, what we say. Type 1 infection, what we call the insulin dependent patients, they are totally, for the management or to keep the sugar under control, they had to totally depend upon the injectable insulins only. But the type 2, that is the non-NIDM patients, are going to be managed by the oral hypoglycemic agents. The problem here is that non-insulin, what we call insulin dependent patients, are going to be slightly at a higher risk of developing infection as well as developing a hypoglycemia when you are managing these patients. So when a patient with a history of diabetes enters your clinic, so first thing is to check whether it's insulin dependent or is non-insulin dependent, and then check the patient blood sugar level. The simple random blood sugar level should be checked. Maybe it could be like 120 milligram or it could be a 140 also. It's not, there's no fixed range. If the patient had a sufficient fat food, what we call meal, sufficient meal, then maybe the blood sugar level goes up to 160 also. And whenever the blood sugar level goes below 60 milligram, then it's called as a hypoglycemic. And as the what you call the sugar level decreases, the risk is going to increase. That's the reason the hypoglycemia is more dangerous when you're managing a diabetic patient rather than the hyperglycemia, because hyperglycemia is going to take place for a period of 1 week. Then only the patient can develop the other problems. Otherwise, hypoglycemia is the very serious situation that one has to be remember when you're managing a diabetic patient. So when you're managing diabetic patients, sometimes what happens is diabetic patients think that okay, they should not take a drug, sometimes they miss the meal because for the dental appointment. Then when they miss the meal, then they're going to develop the hypoglycemia. Sometimes they take the what you call medication, then they have the less meal. So these are going to create a what you call hypoglycemia. So inform the patient, take a regular meal, maybe half of the dose of the insulin what they take regularly, and then treat the patients. And later, in the half of the post-operative period, later also patient can take a remaining half of the dose of insulin as a take of food. Because once you treat this patient, the dental treatment is going to patient should not take any what you call food intake is going to be reduced by maybe what you call delayed food intake is going to be there. That itself can cause a hypoglycemia. Rather to ask patient to take what you call a meal sufficiently or even slight hypoglycemia. Suppose if you ask patient to take a sufficient meal, or maybe if you give one glass of what you call our oral glucose in the dental setup also, this is going to prevent the development of any hypoglycemia, because that one glass is not going to what you call raise the blood sugar level and the patient will not become what you call hyperglycemia. So always remember, hypoglycemia is more problematic than the hyperglycemia, and hyperglycemia is not going to be a problem because patient will have other signs and symptoms, so patient is going to come back later. What you call this patient most of the time will not come to you when they have a hypoglycemia because they had to deal with this reduction of the blood sugar. Okay, and then when the patient is going to develop this chance of infection and all, there's a sustained 200 milligram of sugar is maintained over a period of maybe 1.5 years to 2 years, then maybe the patient, such patients are going to be having a higher chance of developing the infection. So such patient, more anything, NIDM or type 1 or type 2, a diabetic patient should always be treated under what we call antibiotic coverage because to prevent the development of an infection. So when you're taking the patients for the treatment of diabetic patients, always making sure that okay, the blood sugar level, that is what we call RBS, random blood sugar level, and then maybe the next is that put the patient under antibiotic coverage so that the patient, we can prevent the development of an infection, and always give, preferably if you give one glass of glucose water, there will not be any problem with the hyperglycemia, so that the other patient should be given so that you are not going to take any chance of developing a hypoglycemia to such patients. So rather give one glass of glucose water and treat the patient, and the short period of a hypoglycemia is not going to cause any problem to the patient. And encourage patients to have a sufficient meal, and a dose of insulin can be divided in a day for 2 times instead of what you call take one single shot of insulin and then come to clinic and later not to take any food, then it's going to cause a hypoglycemia. So diabetic patients, yes, these are the points to be remembered when you're managing. So now coming to the endocrine system, the 2 systems, that is thyroid disease as well as the adrenal gland disease. These are 2 diseases, what you call the conditions we should remember. Thyroid problem, that is hyperthyroidism, as well as the hypo is there, but hypothyroidism is not going to cause any much problem to the patient. Only the problem with this hypothyroid patients are that okay, we should avoid what we call our the sedation. Whereas the hyperthyroid is a patient where when you enter, most of the time you check about this thyroid status, whether patient is under the treatment and whether it's a euthyroid state, If it's a euthyroid state, yes, you can regularly go ahead with the treatment. Suppose if it's a hyperthyroid condition, rather you have to be like taking a physician opinion about this one, or maybe the wait for some period or only symptomatic treatment should be done to these patients. And the hyperthyroid patients, yes, you have to know that local anesthesia which is containing adrenaline is an absolute contraindication. When you are managing this hyperthyroid patient, make sure that you are not going to treat the patient with the local anesthesia with adrenaline, because that is itself is going to cause a tachycardia. Because already patient is with the hyperthyroid patient is going to have a tachycardia, and the adrenaline what you are giving is going to cause a what you call again the increase the heart rate. Maybe now here we can think, okay, fine, the pain itself can also cause the what you call your this is going to cause what you call your raise maybe blood pressure, but not tachycardia. So better to treat this patient with a short period of appointment as well as the local anesthesia without adrenaline is preferred, and is absolutely contraindicated. That itself can cause the patient is already tachycardic, it can develop a arrhythmia. That's the reason we always avoid giving the LA with adrenaline, rather plain local anesthesia should be used. Whereas hypothyroid patient, as I told, this sedation to be avoided. Otherwise, hypothyroid patient local anesthesia with adrenaline is preferred. It is not contraindicated. Now coming to the adrenal gland, where the hyperadrenalism is going to be the problem. That is why this hyperadrenalism is going to be the problem, because most of the chronic diseases like skin disorders or the nerve disorders or the joint problems, these patients are treated with the steroids. Whenever the patient is taking the steroids, then what we call your the steroid deficiency in the body is going to create a problem. So this is hypothyroidism, hypoadrenalism, not the hyper. Okay, there's a type error. So hypoadrenalism is going to be the problem. When you're teaching these patients, most of the time these patients are on the steroid therapy. Whenever the patient is taking steroid for a period of 2 weeks in the last 6 months or maybe 2 years, they say, but in the taper dose, most of the time it's not going to affect. But whenever a patient is taking a regular dose of steroids, that steroid is meant to have what they call to carry out the day-to-day activities, but not for the purpose of the extra burden of anxiety or the stress that we want to put with the dental treatment. So rather, that's the reason we should always double the dose of the steroid on the previous day and then treat the patient. So when you're treating these patients, always double the dose of the steroid on the previous day and then treat these patients. And suppose if the patient develops a problems like uncomfortable or a syncopal episode, or maybe the what you call sweating, and the patient feels uncomfortable, and maybe the problem is that the patient is definitely under stress, and because of that patient may develop a complication. So in those situations, rather immediately the patient should be given an IV hydrocortisone 100 mg, maybe 200 mg. The patient is going to be comfortably sitting in the chair. So to manage whenever the hypotensive problem patient comes or with a history of a steroid comes, then rather we have to always double the dose of a steroid on the previous day and as well as on the day of the surgery, or what you call your routine extraction also. And the patient should be managed by doubling the dose. Now, this is most of the times the renal system, whereas these patients are going to have a altered function of the renal system. And these patients, of course, there's no contraindication or problem with the managed patient. Maybe these patients will have a slightly blood pressure or anemia, or what we call this patient will be having a bleeding tendencies. So these things are going to be the main concern for us. And along with that, this patient, when we manage this patient, but we should know that, okay, fine, this patient should not be given any NSAIDs because these are absolutely contraindicated. Rather, reduced dosage is preferred, but still that is also going to cause the damage to the patient. So we should always avoid these NSAIDs in these patients. Rather, we should think of giving only the plain paracetamol or maybe tramadol is preferred in these patients in case of when you're managing the renal patient systems. So next patient, that is a pregnancy. So when a patient comes to you with the history of what we call this a pregnancy, as you know, that's a pregnancy that is 3 trimesters, that is the first trimester, second trimester, and the third trimester. And as we all know that the second trimester is a safer period to manage any dental problems. If at all the patient develops a problem in the initial first trimester or maybe the last trimester, still we need to think of doing only what we call emergency treatment that cannot be avoided at all. Only thing is that in consultation with the physician as well as the gynecologist, we should think of doing an emergency treatment to these patients. Why you should not treat this patient in the first trimester as well as the last trimester? Why? Because the first trimester the patient is having what you call, as you see in the picture, that the organism is going to be taking place. organism is going to be taking place, but thing is because the dental treatment still can cause an development of infections in the patient, and then they are prone at the stage, and then that can cause lead to the what you call the rubella or other infection, influenza and all. So that can cause what you call the developmental deformity in the fetus. That's the reason first trimester is avoided, and meantime, because the dental treatment or your stress of dental treatment can cause a abortion. That's the reason we should avoid treating these patients in the first trimester. Whereas take first is of course the second and third trimester also we can treat the patients. Maybe the what you call slightly premature delivery is one of the things to be remembered when you're managing. If at all this emergency treatment has to be done, this patient has to be done along with this what you call your help of a gynecologist as well as patient, where the patient is going to monitor the patient and then the gynecologist is going to monitor the fetus, whereas the anesthetist is going to help you on control the pain or maybe what you call sedation or a stress. So it is always preferred to treat these patients in the second trimester, but emergency treatment has to be carried out whatever the trimester which is going to be there. Now coming to the history of medication, whenever the patient comes, then most of them inquire about the history, what type of medication they are taking. That will tell you from what they are suffering. If the patient is taking antihypertensive medication, it could be a underlying cardiac condition or it could be a renal condition. So it is antihypertensive medication they are taking. So inquire about this medication, check the blood pressure of the patient, and take up this patient for the what you call your dental treatment. And antiplatelet drug, of course, these are the ones like whereas a CNS as well as some cardiac patients will be taking antiplatelet medication, that is what you call your aspirin and the clopidogrel the patient will be taking. A lot of literature is available, but nowadays it is preferred not to withdraw the drug because the withdrawing of the drug itself can cause what you call the episodes of what again the damage to the patient. So rather it is not required to withdraw that dosage, or maybe you can, if the INR is slightly raised, so you can reduce the dosage of the drug, that is half of the dose, and what you call aspirin can be maintained to the patient so the INR can be altered, and you can manage this patient with this, reduce the dosage but not stop the dosage. Whenever earlier it is used to be stopped 7 days before the dental treatment, because to prevent what you call this bleeding tendencies are going to be there in case of the patient on the antiplatelet drugs. As I told, this is steroids. If the patient is taking steroids, either it could be a skin conditions or it could be what you call your even asthma also, or sometimes even this joint problems or neurological problems. Most of the times the steroids are used in excessively. So if the patient is taking steroids, obviously the patient is going to have a hypoadrenalism. That, as I told, in the last 2 years or what you call last 2 weeks, that hypoadrenalism is going to be there in this patient. So if they're taking steroids, the same therapy that is increasing the dosage of this steroid for the double the dosage on the previous day, and meantime on the day of the work also as a dental treatment, and then maybe that taper it off later like post-operatively. Otherwise, if the patient develops a complication of the dentistry, yes, you have to go ahead with injecting a 100 mg or a 200 mg hydrocortisone to the patients to prevent any development of a complications. Antidepressants are the next drug you have to inquire. Most of the patients will be taking, but nowadays it is not so much what you call interaction is not be there, going to be there with the adrenaline. What they tell is the antidepressant is the patient taking MOE inhibitors, what we tell, but these are not going to be causing any interactions, what we call complications when you're using a local anesthesia with adrenaline. So there's no problem in carrying out the procedures with using a local anesthesia with the adrenaline. And contraceptives, yes, like with a female with the childbearing and a married female, contraceptive should be inquired. Otherwise, most of the time, because of contraceptives, there will be a bleeding tendencies or other complications. Or maybe the patient is taking contraceptives, and if you prescribe the antibiotic, then maybe the chances of a conception is going to be there. That's the reason the such patient should be warned that okay, the effect of these contraceptives are going to be nullified if you are prescribing antibiotics. So these are the things you should be remembered when you are taking issue of this medication. And this is a slide showing to us, okay, orthostatic hypotension there whenever the patient is taking antihypertensive medications. So these patients are having a chances of developing orthostatic hypotension. When you are treating a patient on the dental chair and suddenly like after treatment if the patient gets up, there is a chance that that patient may fall back because of this orthostatic hypotension. That is a great. So such patients should be managed by slowly increasing or changing the what you call uprighting the patient over a period of 15-20 minutes so that the patient's blood pressure is going to be normalized. Suddenly if this patient gets up, then maybe the chance of